Someone once told me that the thing they feared most in life was arriving at the pearly gates one day and being introduced to the man that they could have been. I suppose it's that fear that keeps pushing some individuals to jump higher, run faster, work harder, and sometimes dream up the most remarkable ways of bettering themselves. Like a lot of my crazy ideas, this one was conceived late one night after a few too many beers at our local pub. An idea that would have most often been shelved as soon as the last rounds were called. This one just seemed to stick with me. Over the next few weeks, the topic kept popping up. The seed had been planted, and I just could not get away from it. And the more people told me that it was not possible, the more I wanted to prove them wrong. But wanting to prove people wrong is one thing. Wanting to climb to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro entirely barefoot is another story altogether. So as I set the wheels in motion for this crazy idea to become a reality, I needed a wingman, and there was no doubt who would receive the call for this role. Andrew King and I had previously undertaken some grueling challenges together, and there was no better man to plan and implement this expedition with me. As this was an unconventional challenge, the two of us knew we would have to find an unconventional team to make a success of it. First up was the skinny cappuccino, the quintessential funny man with an uncanny ability to lift the spirits when needed most. Headley, the light-hearted family man who has no major accolades, but has mountains of energy and enthusiasm. Cam, the rose amongst the thorns, whose perfect mix of toughness and femininity would keep the boys on their toes. Then in order to walk for days on sharp volcanic rock scree and reach the snow and glacier-covered summit, we knew we would have to understand the science behind overcoming these obstacles. For this, we went to Dr. Ross Tucker from the South African Sports Science Institute, who at the time thought it was a good idea. So with me as the sixth climber, the Barefoot team was finalized. The wheels were set in motion, and it would be a long time before we would see our shoes again. When climbing a mountain, grit and determination can often get you to the summit. But when you're dealing with bare feet and sub-zero conditions, understanding the science of the cold is probably a better place to start. Any fool can be cold and wet, but real cold is not an endurance sport and can lead to very serious injuries and can never be taken lightly. After a few rounds in the ice chamber in Cape Town, it was very clear there were three very critical questions that needed to be figured out. 1. At what temperature am I in danger of getting frostbite? 2. In the likeliness of my feet being constantly numb, what does that dangerous feeling feel like? 3. Walking through ice and snow, how long will it take to get to that danger zone? And then what steps can be taken to warm up again quickest? For this, Ross was our go-to man. After all, he did do a thesis on barefoot running and had been involved in helping guys cheat the cold and swim in the Arctic Ocean. Two pretty relevant topics.
Yeah, I mean, this is the most important thing on the mountain is going to be to know how long we can walk before we have to warm up, because from 5,000 meters onwards the temperatures will be below freezing. So this is really just to figure out what the point is where it starts to become numb and then stop before that, because I think the most important principle is going to be that we must warm up before we have to. I think by the time you get to the point where you have to warm your feet, then it's probably too late, and we lose so much time waiting for the tissues to get back up to normal then. So what the guys have been doing now is walking around for 7 minutes. The temperature at the moment is 6.5 degrees below freezing, and this is figuring out where that limit is.
We just finished our first session as a team in the ice chamber. We did the first 15 minutes and everyone seemed to be fine. We came out, had a look at our feet. We went back in, and after 5 minutes everyone was joking around, and our feet were not feeling great. And I had a look underneath them, and under each of my toes was a little white ring, which about 1 millimeter deep, like super numb, couldn't feel them. And I think that was kind of the first stages of frostbite. So yeah, maybe a bit of change of attitude now. We always knew that it's going to be difficult, but reality starts to sink in now, definitely.
This was just the scare that we needed. It was now time to start getting a little bit more serious, and research and preparation became our #1 priority. After months of pretty much living with no shoes on to condition our feet, we began the process of planning our strategy for the summit and preparing all the necessary gear to give us the best possible chance.
So after a few minor mishaps and one delayed start, we set off for Tanzania. Although we still had some unanswered questions, we knew that at some point we would just have to put our concerns aside and give this a go.
Looking out the window, we see 2-meter propellers outside. Long time since I've flown on a plane with propellers on. Still no sign of any staff, and probably only about 20 people on this little toothpaste tube plane, so we really know we're in Africa now. So trip's officially starting. Be there about midnight. We start climbing early in the morning. It's game on.
Meeting us in Moshi to guide us up the mountain was Sean Disney, a veteran of the 7 summits, and having twice stood on the top of the highest mountain in the world. His initial response to my expedition request was one that I'll never forget, and has now become a Sean Disney trademark quote. If the weather gods are kind to us, and you get damn lucky, this is possibly not impossible. Obviously, he even had his doubts whether this was such a good idea. But it was too late now. We were committed and had not planned for failure.
After a lot of traveling and excitement, we eventually arrived at the Namoru Gate. We first met our porters that Sean had organized for the expedition.
We noticed a lot of confused faces as the locals asked the lead guide where our shoes were. Some of them laughed amongst each other, and you know, it became clear that some of them worked for 40 years and never seen a climber or porter attend Kili barefoot. And their question was the same as everyone else we met: why would you want to do that?
But we've just met the guys, we're signing into the gate now, and this is where the bus drops us. This is the last time we'll see transport until we get to the top and back on the other side. So very, very excited, and it's going to be an awesome day. Common noun for wildebeest.
From the Narimoro Gate, we would follow a 5-day route from the less popular eastern side as we contoured up towards the impressive Moenzi Peak, and then through the saddle up to High Camp, before a final day summit attempt.
Sean Disney had personally summited Kilimanjaro, I think, 17 times, and some of his guides sort of well over 200 to 300 times. So his strategy was crystal clear. Pole, pole. slowly, slowly does it.
So we got our lead guide, Salim here. Just ahead, he keeps telling us pule, pule, which means slow, slow, slow. So that's the name of the game today, although we feel like we could go faster. The deal is to take it nice and slow for 4 days, so when we get there we're strong, climatized. I'm not going to say it's easy underfoot, but it's manageable. So we'll take it for the first day.
Currently we're still in sort of rainforest type environment, walking on quite a well manicured path. Stones are, you know, small and quite sharp, but yeah, the feet are feeling pretty good. And from tomorrow until Sunday, you know, it's going to get a hell of a lot more technical. But certainly, yeah, I think it's just a matter of looking at foot placement and making sure that you put your feet in the right area.
Skinny, have you found King Solomon's mines?
Not yet, I won the backpack of the day though. I reckon 1.5 kg backpack.
As the sun was setting at the end of our first day, we finally arrived at the Rongai camp, which is situated 2,600 meters above sea level.
So we've just got some methylated spirits into half a bottle here. We're going to soak our feet for a while just to hopefully recover quicker. So tomorrow morning we can get going as quickly as possible.
At sunrise on day 2, Doc Ross already had his serious face on and was gathering vital information from the ground temperature that would help us set a strategy for the summit day.
Yeah, so I've been monitoring the temperatures on the climb, because one of the key factors for us is obviously going to be how quickly it warms up on summit day. Because if it's below freezing and the ground is also below freezing, it's going to be very difficult to get up there. But the good news is that the sun warms the ground fairly fast. I mean, within an hour of the sun coming up this morning, it was already 20 degrees from 3 or 4 degrees overnight. Maybe we'll be able to attack the summit from about 8 in the morning. And with luck and the same weather we've had the last 2 days, we should be doing it in temperatures that are above freezing, and that makes our lives a lot easier. It means only 2 problems to deal with instead of 3. So fingers crossed for more weather like this.
The terrain on day 2 was considerably harder than day 1. We only had 7 kilometers to go from the Rongai camp to our next overnight stop at Kikuwela Caves. We desperately needed our feet to start adapting to the tough terrain. We knew that if we came out of day 2 broken, there would be little chance of making it to the summit day.
So every now and again you think you're doing so well, spotting all the flat areas, get into a bit of a rhythm, then all of a sudden you lose a bit of focus and you kick the toe, or you stand on a rock right in the meaty bit. Yeah, so what a killer. It takes you a good 30 seconds to recover from that, but you got to keep going in that time and then get back into another rhythm. But it's good for us, good for the mind, it's good for us to understand what's coming up and what we've still got to do. Gets our head ready. If it was too easy and we got to that final day, then I think we'd be in big trouble.
One of the main contributing factors to the success of an expedition of this nature is to be surrounded by positiveness and positive people. What better way to be surrounded with clowns like Kappa and Burry, who just, when you're around, there's just never a dull moment.
Come, it's a stone throwing compo. Get a stone.
Oh, almost your hamstring there.
Yeah! Oh, it hit the rock and came back.
It looked tasty.
Yeah. Fun, eh?
Watch, watch. For the first time on day 2, we really felt like we were starting to make real progress towards the cone of the Kilimanjaro volcano. Having gained over 1 kilometer in altitude in a single day, we could really feel the team's spirits starting to lift as we continued up the mountain.
Yeah, today's been a good day, much tougher terrain-wise than yesterday. I think we've got our first taste here in the last few hours of what summit day is going to be like in terms of the ground underneath. I think of the 3 enemies, the cold, the altitude and the terrain, I think we've seen good things today. I'd be lying if I said it was maybe an hour too long. I've been looking forward to this camp for the last hour. Get the feet up, get the feet in some mess, relax, and then we'll take tomorrow.
That's where the barefoot climb ended, and the climb will commence tomorrow through the gates here.
So at the end of the day, a little handball of warm water. It's all you need to make you happier. Simple things in life. A couple thorns, a couple nicks, a little blood spilled today. For 2 days, I'll take it.
Although we had simple intentions for this expedition, I needed it to be significant, and if we could get to the top of Africa whilst doing some good at the same time, well then I would be able to claim it a true success.
On our last trip to Cape Town before the expedition, Burry had organised for us to go on a tour of the burns unit of our expedition beneficiary, the Red Cross War Memorial Children's Hospital in Cape Town. I don't think any of us were quite prepared for the impact that this would have on us.
The Red Cross Children's Hospital is the only dedicated paediatric children's hospital in Southern Africa. They see over 250,000 patients each year, and over a third of these children are under a year old. My younger sister was one of these lucky kids when her life was saved at this hospital in 1985. And my family is forever indebted to them, and it's such an honor for me to have an opportunity to give a little back and say thanks to them.
The Red Cross Children's Hospital definitely made a lasting impression on every single one of our climbing team. Seeing how some of these people fight relentlessly against some overwhelming odds certainly helps you to remain humble and grounded in a world that has largely become more about taking than giving back.
If you guys are ready, we're going to roll it out.
The time of the day when you rue and you know the whole breakfast, you got it. At some stage, take the old boots off. So here we go, day 3.
Did bugger up my baby toe, which throbbed a little, but it's all wrapped up. And I hope I'm not breaking the barefoot rules by having a plaster on it. And today I think we have quite a steep climb. Yeah, looking forward to seeing what temperatures are up there and getting our feet used to climbing on the ground, which could be below freezing.
Day 3 of the expedition would take us over the daunting 4,000 meter mark, which is generally considered to be high altitude. This is where the complications of acute mountain sickness kick in. So far we've been pretty lucky that there had been no issues except for a few minor scrapes and stubbed toes along the way. But if altitude sickness was going to play a part in our team, above the 4,000 meter mark was where it was going to rear its ugly head.
Yeah, certainly starting to feel a bit of burn in the lungs. Deep breaths. Every step you take is certainly starting to get a little bit more difficult. But as the porter has been telling us, pole, slowly, and hopefully we can get there in the next 3-4 hours or so and try and do some acclimatization.
That's as fresh as you can get. Ice melt stream coming off the top of Kili. A sure way to wake yourself up, eh? Beautiful, fresh, ice cold water.
As we crested up onto the Mwenzi Ridge, we all turned around to look at Kilimanjaro there behind us. And for the first time, we got a real idea of what we would have to tackle on summit day.
If you look behind me, you can see there's a grey line coming down, and apparently that is the down route from the top. And yeah, my greatness, does that look quite intense, and hopefully we'll be coming down a successful summit.
Mount Kilimanjaro is actually made up of 3 dormant volcanoes. Kibo, the main cone on which we would summit, Shira to the west, and the impressive sharp spires of Mwenzi in the east. Below these peaks is the Mwenzi Tarn, where we would spend our 3rd night on the mountain. In the 2 weeks before the departure to Tanzania, there was some real drama as Ross had gone back to the ice chamber by himself to do some testing, and had landed up with some severe frostburn under his feet, and the skin had begun to peel away.
The skin under the balls of my foot started to come away because of the freezer burn that I got a couple of weeks ago, so I'm a bit worried that the long days up ahead are going to cause problems because they'll be just too sensitive. So I've used some Fry's balsam to try and treat the wound, and also just to dry the skin out a little bit, so that by the time we take the shoes off tomorrow for the trip down to Kibo, the feet are at least a little bit tougher.
I mean, I went to bed last night fairly anxious about my feet. They felt a little like someone blowtorched them. Felt a lot better waking up, but I think today is going to be a difficult day. If we can get to Kibo tonight, then knowing that the summit is the only target remaining will be 50% of the motivation tomorrow. So I think today is probably going to be the hardest day. The second last day always is.
Day 4 was a big one for us. We spent the whole day walking towards the cone of Kilimanjaro, and every time we looked up, we could see the magnitude of the goal we had set ourselves. It was quite intimidating, to say the least.
Well, the strategy obviously is just to go slower and slower as you get higher up the mountain. Your body's struggling to extract the amount of oxygen it needs out of your blood. So the idea is to go very slowly, regulate your heartbeat. So that, along with drinking lots of water, it's going to put you in a position where you don't perhaps feel the effects of altitude sickness as much as you might. So far I think we've done hell of a well, and everyone's in good spirits. I'm really impressed. I would put all the money I had on everybody making it up at this point.
With the predictions of a cold front moving in 2 days' time, and a good weather window predicted for the following day, we all knew that we would have one crack at this.
Okay, into day 4 we're rolling into Kibo Hut, which is 4,700 meters above sea level, which is higher than 90% of us have ever been. And looking straight up ahead is the big mountain with the way up. So we're just gonna chill out. Tomorrow we strike. We've been so good so far, so tomorrow's a big day.
Jumbo, jumbo, kaka.
As we walked into advanced camp, there were certainly some strange looks from the other climbers and porters as we went about setting up camp for the night.
I reckon they're mad if you ask me personally, but by the looks of his feet, but I don't know, they look pretty tough, so no, I'm definitely backing for yous for sure. Yeah, good on yous.
Been ready all my life for this. They said it wouldn't be easy. Little did they know. Okay.
Although there was this obvious positive air amongst the team, there was certainly some concern over Ross's feet. We all knew that he wasn't letting on the full extent of how sore they were. We all just hoped that he would be able to bear the pain for just one more day.
To keep his foot protected, but it was hanging on by the skin of its feet, I suppose you'd say. And eventually on day 2 and 3 it's torn right off, so you can see all these sensitive areas, and that's what's causing the problems on these sharp stones. And so let's hope the maths works tonight.
It's 6:20 on in the morning on summit day. Team's assembled here in the mess tent for the last time before we head up to Huru Peak. So everyone's in good nick. The last 6 months of preparation and the last 4 days of climbing have put us in the best possible position. And from where we're sitting, we can see glaciers and snow on the top, which we're definitely going to be walking in later. So it's a bit of an unknown how much the temperature is going to affect us. But we're only going to be able to figure out how to handle that when we get there. So got all the preparation and the strategy in place, and we just got to go and do it now.
I remember waking up on summit day, which everyone knows is the big day. I mean, you go from 4,700 to 5,800 meters. It's a long day and a difficult day, and I was anxious about how my feet were going to handle the stress of that last day. But at that point, having walked 4 days and gotten to within sight of the summit, I mean, it was just a question now of put your head down and push on, because no one's going to quit within sight of the finish line. Now normally, climbers would start the ascent day at midnight so that they could get to the summit at around sunrise and look out over the Serengeti. We didn't have that opportunity because we were concerned about the temperatures being so cold in the middle of the night. So we delayed our summit until sunrise so that we could take advantage of the sunlight. The result of that, though, was that all the climbers who'd gone ahead of us were now starting to make their way down, and some of them had been successful. They were the happy ones, but we saw a lot of people who'd really taken strain, who the mountain had beaten, and they were being helped down on the way down after an unsuccessful summit attempt.
I think it's crazy coming here with a bare feet. I never seen this before, you know. It's my first experience in the mountain. I've been here for more than 10 years and I never seen this before. I cannot even imagine this, how guys are doing this. I'm so much impressed for what you're doing. And, as long as I'm doing this for kids, you guys are gonna be blessed for life, you know. It's a crazy idea. It's not an easy job. I have never even tried to walk for maybe 10-15 minutes in barefoot in Kilimanjaro.
Yeah.
Good luck, guys.
Okay, Alex. Thanks,
Cheers.
man. Cheers, Zach.
Yeah, so we've been walking for into the 4th hour now. I believe we're at about 5,300 or so. We've hit the volcanic shale that everyone warned us about. So the going is pretty difficult at the moment on the feet terrain-wise. So far, seems like everyone's feeling good. I mean, I think by now, if there were going to be problems that were going to cost someone the summit, they would have appeared. So pretty confident and really excited for the next few hours.
I'm quite short of breath. My feet are amazing. Definitely all that preparation's paying off. I can't actually feel a thing. And the ground is so warm and yeah, feeling great. Can't wait to get to the top.
We're in the crux of it at the moment. It's the steepest part of the climb as we go up Gilman's up to the crater rim. It's the last 100 meters and it really is the toughest because it's the rockiest and it's the steepest. The time now is 11 o'clock in the morning and we're at about 5,520 meters. So we've got about 100 meters to the rim and from there it's 2 hours.
Once we had passed Gilman's Point and had to skirt around the crater rim towards Stella Point, we knew that this was the make or break part of the expedition. The snow and the ice fields, the thing that we had spent so many months preparing for. This was it. It was game time. No more theories, tests or experiments. In a few meters' time, we were going to find out if this was going to be a realistic goal or an absolute pipe dream. As we started to walk over the ice, I reminded everyone that as soon as anyone felt the slightest discomfort or pain, that they had to speak up, and that the whole team would stop, sit down, and have time to warm up our feet before we carried on. This was exactly what we had prepared for. So we all went quietly, put our heads down, and plodded on.
So there we were, just walking around on top of the snow and the ice, and nothing happened. It was crazy, because we had simulated these exact conditions in the cold room, and 2 of us had reached that danger zone in a matter of minutes. And yet, up here on the mountain, we were all 100% comfortable. I remember distinctly at one point, standing on top of the sharp rock scree and on the ice and looking down at my feet and thinking to myself, this really should not be possible.
This is also a lesson in just how remarkable the human body is in terms of the physiological capacity to adapt, not only with respect to the feet, but with how you can withstand cold conditions if you're preparing for them, if you plan for them, and if you have a plan of action for what to do when you're in them. And I think every single person did exactly what was needed, and it was all because of planning and physiology meeting one another. It was just the perfect experiment to showcase what we are capable of doing.
From where we were standing at Stella Point, we could see the sign over a kilometer away, and that was the first time I really knew we were going to do this. Well, Ross had been really quiet most of the day, and I knew his feet were really hurting him. But at that stage, we would have carried him to the summit if we had to. Before we left for Kili, I had a number of people questioning my motives and asking me why on earth I wanted to summit Kilimanjaro barefoot. In fact, I hadn't met a single person who had told me it was possible. I think once I switched my mind off, I just knew I had to give it a try. There was no ways I wasn't going to try.
As we shuffled over the last few hundred meters around the crater rim towards the summit, we had an opportunity to take in the truly breathtaking views into the volcano and over the majestic glaciers that were scattered around us. We were saddened to hear from Sean that even in his few short years of coming to Kilimanjaro, he could see just how much the glaciers were receding each year. It is clear that as a species, we are putting huge strain on our planet, and I firmly believe that if we want to change this course, we are going to have to change the way we perceive what is possible and what is not. It was only during those last few meters that we were able to drop the heavy burden of planning, science, failure, and caution, and let the emotion of the moment completely consume us. For a brief moment, there was not a worry in the world. We were standing on the roof of Africa, and we had the entire mountain to ourselves. We had not saved the world's problems. We had not written our names into any record books.
Here's another one. Here's another one. Oh, what a beautiful ride.
And we had not won any prizes.
Guys, well done, eh? What a team.
But we had every reason to celebrate life, to celebrate our health, and had a damn good time in doing so.
sitting on the summit now, we've done it, and you can imagine the wide range of emotions that would have been felt. One of them, for example, was just the relief, personally because of my feet, but also for the team to have made it without a single failure. So many experts, doctors and scientists before we'd gone had said this is not possible. Well, now we were here, it's possible. I would expect that probably 80% of trips up Kili had more dramas than we did with all the challenges we faced. But I think it was largely because of the people and the efforts that went into getting to the mountain that got us to the top of the mountain.
At the end of the day, it was quite sad to know that we would no longer have a valid excuse to walk around without shoes on. For so long now, it had forced us all to slow down a little, to be a little more conscious of the environment and the world around us. I have no doubt that it won't take us long to put our shoes back on and slip back into the fast-paced lifestyle back home. But I'm satisfied in knowing that at least we will have these great memories of the day we defied common perception and stood on the top of Africa. Barefoot.
Kilimanjaro, 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 mlima mrefu sana. Na mawenzi, mlima mrefu sana. Ewe nyoka, ewe nyoka, ewe nyoka, ewe nyoka, mbona wanizunguka, 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 wataka kunila nyama. Kilimanjaro, 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 mlima mrefu sana. Na mawenzi, na mawenzi, na mawenzi, na mawenzi, mlima mrefu sana.